Welcome. Welcome to the 2013 GN Symposium, the fifth of its kind. Those of you who have been with us for the last 4 years already, you have a certain idea of how such a GN Symposium should be looking like. And for those, I really need to tell you that we've done a little bit of changes. The Tuesday plenary is a sort of tradition, and we will keep that tradition, and it will go on this afternoon. But you will find in general that we've done a couple of changes, and when I say we, it's because the first time we've had a program committee to organize this event. And I'd just like to make sure that before we all start, you know who to blame. So I'd like the program committee to get up, and these are Aphrodite, Anne, Sanap, Annabelle, Guy, Miro, Walter, Jim, Gyöngi. That's Gyöngi, yeah, and myself, and we have, of course, had support from Jessie. I don't know, she's probably outside, yeah. So we've given a little bit more thought to the overall event, and I very much hope that you will appreciate that. So rather than having a more or less haphazard 2 days where an enormous amount of different rather unassociated reunions take place, we have decided that we actually are going to introduce themes into the overall event. And these themes are innovation, services, users, and clouds. And we will actually start along these themes already after the coffee break this afternoon. And then during the sessions tomorrow and Thursday, you will find that you can be interested in services, clouds, users or innovation, and you should not have what you complained about so many times in the past years, all these dreadful overlaps and, oh God, I wanted to go here and I wanted to go there and it's all interesting and too many events. So you will find we have less sessions tomorrow and Thursday. We have them themed up and we hope that you will find your choice easier. If not, this is your event. There is a program committee amongst, from out of your midst. If you're really upset, please volunteer to become a member of next year's program committee. And if you're just a little bit upset, please use the evaluation forms and let us know about it. This is really important. And equally, if you really like it, please also let us know, because this is the only way we can make this event better from year to year. As you will have seen, we are really up to date this event. We have a conference app which has been developed by PSNC. It's called CME4, and if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can take a picture from the barcode, from this little square code, and download the app and follow the program and the sessions tomorrow also on your smartphone. And that is, of course, also the point where you should start tweeting, and tweeting, if you could, please use the hashtag GN Symposium, because this way, we can make sure that the community actually all hears you. In addition to all these good new things, we have information desks available for you in the outside coffee area, and there are 5 of them. So one is, of course, around all the new open calls. The open call awardees are here with us, and there is a time when you can go and see the booth and speak to the relevant themes in the open calls, if you're interested. We also have a booth or an information desk on performance monitoring. We have a desk on Meet the Project Office, and I would like to encourage you to actually do that. All of us, more or less on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, we have contacts with the project office. We have a new project manager in GN, which is Trifon, and just make sure that you go see that booth and talk to the people, and any question you have, they will be happy to tell you about. We also take registrations for the GN School of Developers that is taking place in November. There's still some places available, so please go see the booth for the GN School for Developers if you're interested or you know somebody who works with you on GN who would participate and benefit from this. And of course, last not least, we have the Rubik Cubes challenge. And I hope you all have practiced more than I have, because what we're trying to do is break the record. As you know, GN has a world record these days, 8 terabits of data provisioned in 19 minutes. So anybody who thinks it can do the Rubik Cube faster than 19 minutes, please go see Carl. The best 25 will win a special branded GN Rubik Cube, and there are only 25 of them in the world, so please go. And if you have the fastest time, you get a special prize, and I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure it's an interesting one. So get your fingers ready, set, and go for the GN Rubik Cube challenge. In addition, as I've already said, we have a set of new people. Obviously, some of you are new because you're new to GN, because it's the first time you're a task leader or worker or an activity leader in GN3 PLUS. If that is the case, welcome. But we also have quite a lot of people from the open call community, which this afternoon will be explained to you by Michael Enrico here. What are the open calls? And then again in the booth. But so if you don't know somebody, go and speak to this person, because probably be able to tell you about quite a lot of interesting, innovative research. Also, there are some governance side meetings happening. So if you see any of our senior community members, it's probably because they are here for these sort of governance side meetings. As far as I know, the External Advisory Committee is here, the GN3 Plus Exec, the GN4 Working Group, and also the Strategy and Innovation Committee. Right. And now there's not a lot that I have to say. It's just in case of fire. We are not going to go through any sort of, I'm not going to point out the emergency exits now. Hotel staff will come and guide you through the exits, but I mean, as you know, avoid panic, walk slowly, all these good things. And I'd just like to end this introduction now by reminding you, as I hope the photos that we were showing here about the Motín de Esquilache. Those of you who were in Alcalá with us for the Project Management Convention will remember that. And I don't know, does anybody still remember the slogan, the password? Any of our Spanish colleagues, maybe? No? Okay, it was, pase lo que pase, 3 días le quedan al Esquilache. And what I mean by that is, you've got 3 days here in Vienna, enjoy them. And we promise that this time we will not send in the troops. So with that, I am now reminded to talk about the VIP game, but I will do that later before the coffee break. Thanks, Gyöngy. No, but with that, I would like to introduce Dale Robertson, who is the European Union Liaison Officer in Dante. And she will be speaking to you about GN3 Plus in the context of the Innovation Union, the Digital Agenda, and Horizon 2020, trying to give us a little bit of a greater vision of how our daily work fits into the strategy of the European Union. So Dale, please.
Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been invited, as Katrin has just said, to try to set the scene, I suppose, by explaining where GN fits into the European Union's overall overarching policies. So I'll try to make that interesting, conscious that many of you have had an early start, as I have, and you've also just had a nice 3-course meal. But it will be a canter through. just to keep you on your toes, actually, I'm going to put things in a slightly different order to what I've listed them here. But it will be a fairly quick journey through these different policies and trying to show where GN3 Plus or GEONT fits in. So really, it's about the economic health of Europe. That's what the overall scene really is, and you can decide for yourselves whether that's too pessimistic a view, but it's probably not far off the mark. So very quickly, to start with, a little bit of background, just to make the point that for a long time now, the EC has recognised and continues to recognise the contribution of research networking to European economic growth and competitiveness. Perhaps these days that's not a terribly surprising statement, but actually if you go back 10, 15, 20 years, it's actually relatively visionary. So the EC has supported in the form of co-funding successive generations of GEONT, leading to the topology that we now know. They've been a major supporter over the years, also with the vision that it's not just about Europe, it's about the whole global scene, and they've helped with studies and with projects to extend connectivity out to various world regions, and that's been going on for many years. So that's just setting a bit of background. What they recognised was that enhanced access to researchers, to facilities and resources did have a connection to economic growth, and that increasing the ability for researchers in Europe to participate was actually advantageous for Europe. So moving on then to Europe 2020, which is the sort of top-level overarching EU policy that was set by the EU heads of state in 2010. It's a 10-year growth strategy to create in Europe a smart, sustainable and inclusive economy. And what they've done is they've tried to align different policies which perhaps at times in the past have been somewhat unaligned or misaligned. Things are now more coherent, and the other policies that cascade down from Europe 2020 are keyed into that overall vision. So there are 5 key targets in Europe 2020, covering employment, education, research and innovation, social inclusion and poverty, and climate and energy, climate change and energy. All aiming at this overall target of creating the smart, sustainable, inclusive economy. The most relevant one, obviously, for us here is related to research and innovation, and the target is that 3% of the GDP of the European Union as a whole should be invested in research and development. There's the scene as it was in 2010. I don't believe it's terribly different today. So what this actually shows is 25 of the then 27 EU member states. For some strange reason, Malta and Slovenia are not visible. I think they're probably covered up under some of the bubbles, actually. So what you can see, if I can get this little pointer to work, Greece, Ireland, Spain. The purple blob here is Italy. Up here, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Denmark. The size of the bubble is a reflection of the size of the economy of the country. And there is the 3% line running across there. So what you can see is that the target is relatively ambitious. I think it's been quite a controversial one. There's been parliamentary questions asked about how much progress the member states are making towards actually achieving this investment target that they themselves have signed up to. But that's the target, and there's the picture comparing how things actually look. And as I say, I don't think things are terribly different today than they were 3 years ago. So I said that Europe 2020 was the kind of overarching policy of the EU. There are 7 flagship initiatives, as they're called, which cascade underneath that. The 2 most relevant ones for us are relating to innovation and the digital economy. So the innovation policy is called the Innovation Union. The digital economy related initiative is called the Digital Agenda for Europe. Related to the Innovation Union, you've also got Horizon 2020, which of course will be very familiar, and in fact also the European Research Area, which I'll say a few words about later on as well. Those policies are the ones that are the most relevant to us in GN3 Plus or in GEONT, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of them. So firstly, the Innovation Union. It's putting a clear focus on research and innovation. The word innovation you will hear coming up time and again, and in fact, if you take only one message away from what I say, it's that innovation really is key. And what has been identified, I think, is that innovation has perhaps sometimes been lacking in terms of actually giving a real impetus to economic growth. And what the heads of state have discussed and recognized and adopted and implemented into these policies is that they want to have more innovation because it's recognized as being a key to economic growth and really to boosting the economy in Europe. So innovation is very much the key word. So Innovation Union is about improving the conditions and access to finance for research and innovation. So, you know, it's great to have ideas, but if you haven't got the programming behind you and the financing behind you, you're maybe not going to get very far. It's also about ensuring supporting innovative ideas being turned into products and services that will be the creators of growth and jobs. So I think in the past, especially with some of the EU funding programs, there have been plenty of ideas. There has also been a fair amount of funding, but sometimes it's not been focused enough to really try to drive those ideas right through and get them to the market. So there's a stronger focus now on really trying to take the fruits of people's talent, if you like, and really drive it straight through to the end of the road so that it really is implemented into real outputs that will actually create growth and jobs for the EU and wider Europe. So there's a comprehensive set of actions within the Innovation Union, and I've chosen the ones that are most relevant here to our area of activity. Relating to research and innovation performance. So firstly, this programme, Innovation Union, sets a target of delivering the European research area, which is basically about creating a single European market for European research, and I'll say a few more words about that later on. It's about progressing the construction of priority research infrastructures, which is obviously of relevance to us. It's also putting a focus on research and innovation programmes, the key one of which for us is Horizon 2020. There are measures to enhance access to finance, so there's a whole raft of different funding vehicles and instruments that have been developed, and different sources of finance, including not just the familiar co-funding that we know of from the EC, but also the European Investment Bank and other institutions that can provide funding. There's improved use of structural funds for research and innovation. So the structural funds are probably reasonably familiar to you. They are regional development funds to try to boost regional economic development in all the different regions of the EU, to try to decrease the disparities in economic development across the EU. The key point about the structural funds appearing here is that there's an attempt to make, as I said earlier, all the policy programs more coherent. So to make structural funds work in tandem smoothly and as efficiently as possible with the other policy initiatives, so you get the biggest possible outcome you can from the investment that's been put in. And then finally, there's cooperation on the rollout of the global research infrastructure, so cooperation between the EU institutions and other bodies and governments around the world to develop the global research infrastructures. So obviously there's a few key points in there that are very relevant for us. Moving on to the European research area, which sits underneath the Innovation Union, and looking at that briefly in a little bit more detail. It's, I said earlier, it's about achieving a single market in European research. It's called the fifth freedom, the free circulation of researchers and scientific knowledge. So basically, the idea is to try to, not to break down national research markets themselves, but a recognition that as well as trying to improve the competitiveness of national research markets, there are advantages in increasing cooperation on a pan-European basis, and that's what this initiative is aiming at doing. This map, when it was being drafted, started out looking a bit like a plan to invade Asia, so I'm happy that it now looks a little bit less aggressive. But the idea is that you'll have a free circulation of scientific knowledge and also the ability to work on a pan-European basis. And clearly, a network like GN3 is key to achieving that vision. Moving on to Horizon 2020, obviously it's quite a familiar programme to us, because I think we probably all know that it will be the next funding programme that we would expect to provide co-funding for the GN3 initiatives. Strictly speaking, of course, Horizon 2020 has got absolutely nothing to do with GN3 PLUS, because GN3 PLUS is not financed by Horizon 2020. It's financed by the 7th Framework Programme. Horizon 2020 is what we would have expected to be called Framework Programme 8. And the reason it's got a different name is back to innovation. It's actually the combination of the Research and Development Framework Programme and the Innovation Programme, which used to be separate. And they've combined them together and obviously had to come up with a different name, which is Horizon 2020. Partly also reflecting, again, this sort of increased coherence of policies in the EU. The Europe 2020 strategy is running from 2010 to 2020. The funding programmes, and this is the financial instrument that implements the Innovation Union programme, the funding programmes are running from 2014 to 2020, which is aligned with the currently seven-year EU budget. So that's why that's not a 10-year programme. But it will provide the financing to implement a lot of these ideas and policies in the Innovation Union. So there are three key objectives, as you can see here. Competitive industries, the idea there is selecting priority industries that are seen as being those that have the greatest potential to create growth and jobs. So things like, for example, nanotechnologies, perhaps, biotechnology. Better Society is focusing research and innovation activity onto what are called societal challenges. So things that need to be, issues that need to be addressed that will help to improve the quality of life of all of us in Europe as citizens. And then a sort of a horizontal I think, underpinning is excellence in science or excellent science. That's where GN3 lives within Horizon 2020. Excellent science is really about recognizing the importance of the talent that is the researchers, so the people themselves, their skills, their knowledge, their education. It's providing a large amount of funding to support and boost that talent, but it also, in excellent science, is about the research infrastructures as well. So that's where GN3 lives. Within Horizon 2020. So as I said, it's a 2014 to 2020 programme. It's got a budget of 70 billion. So, well, actually, it's a bit more, 71, 72 billion. It's an awful lot of money. It sits in an interesting context. If you look at it in the context of the total EU budget for these 7 years, that's 960 billion. So although in absolute terms it's a very large amount of money, actually, you know, when you look at it in that different context, you can ask yourself, well, should there be more being spent on research and innovation? But 70 billion is okay for a start. So the focus on societal challenges. The societal challenges are things like a recognition that the population in Europe is aging. Quite closely associated to that, a recognition that if you invest in research into health issues such as perhaps Alzheimer's, let's say, it's related to aging, it's a relatively modern disease, I think, as well. If you invest in research to try to advance cures or improvements, treatments, you can improve the quality of life and the longevity of life of the people that suffer from it. So you see, the challenges are about improving the quality of life of us as citizens in Europe. Other challenges are related to climate change and closely associated to that, energy and transport. And the other ones that are not as often mentioned are security of energy supply and security of food supply for Europe, which are both strategically very important. So Horizon 2020 contains research and innovation initiatives that are related to trying to progress in those areas. Okay, so Horizon 2020 provides the funding to respond to the economic crisis and to try to drive forward this agenda in the Innovation Union programme and itself underneath the Horizon 2020 programme. Sorry, the Europe 2020 programme. And very important, there's a strong recognition throughout the whole of Horizon 2020 that international cooperation is crucial to address many of the objectives in this programme. So obviously that's very important for us, but Horizon 2020 is already, or well rather the FP7 programme is already one of the most open research funding programmes in the world, and that will continue in Horizon 2020 and goes very well together with this recognition of the importance of international cooperation. So looking a little bit more at where GN3 sits within Horizon 2020, as I said, it belongs in the excellent science pillar, which gets about a third, or will get about a third of the overall budget of Horizon 2020. Within that sits research infrastructures, which is expected to get about €2.5 billion. And then there's e-infrastructures as a subset of research infrastructures. The number against that is not yet completely clear. It will probably be around about €0.8 billion. So it usually gets around about a third, 35% of the research infrastructures funding, but the amounts are still not quite settled. And then within that, you've got GN3, where again, I haven't put a number, but probably there is funding earmarked of around about €150 million over the course of the 7 years of Horizon 2020. But, you know, there's a long road to go yet. We don't know exactly what the funding for GN3 is going to be. Anyway, excellent science is about recognising that world-class science really is the foundation for our economy tomorrow, that we need to develop, attract and retain the research talent. That's a really key point that is recognised throughout these different policy programmes of the EU. And alongside that, that the researchers need access to the best infrastructures, and that's obviously where GN3 comes in. So research infrastructures recognised as being key to an efficient research and innovation environment. Comes back really to the European research area point as well. And that they contribute to growth and economic development in Europe as a whole. And taking it on a global basis, that they're key to really helping Europe to stay in the lead in the digital, data-driven science race. So e-infrastructures, what's the vision for that in Horizon 2020? So firstly, e-infrastructures are seen as being a key for increasing the creativity and the efficiency of research, and also about bridging the digital divide to try to help to even out the disparities in economic development. Secondly, and I think this is quite an interesting one, serving the computing and data needs of any project in Horizon 2020. So fostering economies of scale. But there's also, of course, an implication in there that other projects that receive funding under Horizon 2020 should not be running off and creating their own network, because they're being provided with, or not just the network, but the infrastructures generally, they're being provided with the resources sort of centrally, if you like, on a world-class basis. So why go off and do it for yourself? Reinforcing partnerships with industry, transfer of knowledge. So very important, not just having research in isolation, but actually trying to make sure that the relationships with industry are strong and close, and that there is knowledge transfer going on there, and sharing use of facilities, which is this point here. And then finally, again, the point about structural funds to actually help to develop resources all the way across Europe. So, for example, research infrastructures at the moment are concentrated mostly in 10 of the EU member states. There's a move to try to spread that to make things seem fairer, if you like. But there's obviously an implication that where you put a research infrastructure, you probably need a network connecting to it for people to be able to use it to its maximum potential. Priorities for e-infrastructures in Horizon 2020. Integrate e-infrastructure resources and services across all the layers. So this is about, the EC has gone through the steps of I think, developing the individual components of e-infrastructures. Now they're looking at trying to join that up, make it as seamless as possible for the user, try to make things as usable as possible, and in particular to address the wave of big data, and also the need to get the most you possibly can out of data. So there's two sides to the data there. There's quantity, and there's access and usage and storage and so on. Obviously, the network is key in underpinning that, but in fact, the EC's focus really is more on how to manage data. There's also implementing the e-infrastructure as part of a strategy that's been adopted in the last year or so on HPC. This is where GN3 comes in. So one of the priorities is to implement the recommendations that the GN3 expert group published a couple of years back now, where they were looking at creating the vision for GN3 going forward. And Dorothy will say more about that in her presentation, so I won't say more about it here. And then finally, strategic software. That's something that I think is emerging as a recognised priority and will be developed more, I think, throughout Horizon 2020. Not finally. It comes back to the point about innovation and the point about developing human talent. Very briefly, the structural funds. The point here is that the structural funds and the other EU policy initiatives, there's been a lot of effort made to align them, make them complementary to one another. That way you get more efficiency from the policy initiatives. There's also more focused use of funding within the structural funds, and in particular, science, technology and innovation have been recognised as key. So investing the structural funds in those types of activities will give better return on investment, if you like, generating growth and jobs. Digital agenda. This is, in a sense, where GN3 also has its home, actually. I'll canter quickly through this, not least because Katrin's on her feet. There's an awful lot of initiatives in Digital Agenda. They've got 101 actions. What I've done here is I've looked at, to a certain extent, how it's grouped within the EC itself. The most relevant bit for us is excellence in science, all about renewing the ICT base. That's where GN3 is kind of managed from within the European Commission. But there's also measures to do with addressing regulatory issues. We can both contribute there and benefit from the advances that are made in sorting out regulation. So things to do with data protection, for example. I suppose I could mention perhaps the legal issues around cloud services as well. There are measures to address that, but we've got expertise to actually input to these debates as well, so we can engage with the EC there. Within the digital agenda, again, you see the societal challenges coming up with a digital focus on them. There are applied ICT research areas. There is, very importantly, a lot of effort put onto international cooperation. Similarly, coordination of the different policy programmes. And then net futures. This is about looking further into the future. So what's the next generation of the internet? What might things look like? The excellence in science is more about operational infrastructures that are supporting stuff today. The net future stuff is looking at what might tomorrow bring. GN3's got an important role to play there in engaging with that. So where does GN3 fit in to the digital agenda? It fits in with the catchily titled Action 53, which is about the fact that Europe lacks sufficient infrastructures to support innovation. So this is an action for the EC. It's not written for us. We should not be financially supporting ICT research. The EC aims to support ICT research. One of the ways it does that is through GN3, to develop e-infrastructures further, and also the cloud computing strategy is contained in there as well. So it's about supporting innovation, increasing the quality and efficiency of research, and supporting innovation clusters and multidisciplinary collaboration. The EC is doing lots of different actions. There are really dozens of them. You can go and have a look online if you like. But of course, key to that is that there is funding set aside for the successor to GN3 PLUS under Horizon 2020. There's also a cloud computing strategy, for example. So just to finish and sum up, you've got the top-level policy of Europe 2020 with the target of 3% of the EU's GDP invested in R&D. You've got the European research area, aiming to achieve optimal levels of transnational cooperation and circulation of scientific knowledge. You've got Horizon 2020 aiming for excellence in science. And then you've got the digital agenda, which is aiming to support ICT research infrastructures and innovation. And that was a slightly longer canter through than it should have been. But I hope you found that useful and interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale. And just for you to know, this is of course, I'm not invading space for fun, but because we have a very tight agenda here this morning, and I will do that to everybody, I hope in a very, sort of even way. And all the speakers know in advance that this is what's going to happen to them. So, I try to be as unaggressive as possible. Just to remind you, we only have in this symposium always, questions and answers for Niels and Matthew. Of course, all the other speakers are available in the coffee breaks and also this evening and during the days tomorrow and Thursday. So please, if you do have questions to Dale, just make sure you grab her. And I'm sure she can also do, what's the slow? Cantering is fast. And what is this when the horse walks slow? Trot. She can probably also trot you through these. So the next speaker I would like to introduce is Matthew Scott. As you know, Matthew's been the project manager of GN3 PLUS and GN3 before, and he's a Dante general manager. And from the very wide picture of the view of GN from the European Union, I think we've become a little bit more homely now, and get an introduction to GN3 PLUS. So thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, and thanks to Dale for that very interesting introduction. I think when you look at what we're doing actually in GN3 Plus, you'll see already that we're moving in this direction, and actually the fit is really quite good already. So, just to first of all start off with the mission of the project. One of the things that we like to think of is where we're adding value, and we really want to increase the value of the R&E network services to our community. And we can do that by establishing a pipeline of innovative services, moving down the value chain by going down further into the infrastructure, and also, perhaps more importantly these days, moving up the value chain and adding more added value services. And we're really focusing, as you'll see in GN3 Plus, we're focusing much more on the services and a much broader range of services in the project. And of course, why are we doing this? Well, this is to meet, or really we want to exceed the expectations of our current users and particularly of our future users. So why are we doing this? Well, really the overall ambition of the project, and as Dale mentioned, part of the reason that or primary reason why the EC fund GN is because of the societal benefits. And we really deliver value to society by enabling research to change the way and enhance the way they collaborate and actually increase the amount of research and discovery that they can achieve. And this can be in any sort of area. It can be in health and medicine, energy, environment, particle physics, radio astronomy, arts, or just society in terms of aging issues and that sort of thing. So the question is now, how do we do that? So we are providing a facility, providing the resources to assist this innovation through collaboration. And the first point that we do is we are building, and we are continuing to improve this GN ecosystem. So we do that through flexible connectivity options and testbed facilities. Testbed facilities you'll hear about further on in the presentation, but this is quite a new area, and it's very important for the open calls. We also do that through performance tools and expertise, the advanced AAI, cloud and mobility services. And these are all new areas of development that actually the GN project is leading Europe, but actually also leading the world in many areas. We also look at the research area. So we're looking at collaborative research into state-of-the-art technology. So we're looking at network architectures, specifically into mobility, cloud sensor, scientific content delivery, high-speed mobile, and also into identity and trust technologies. An interesting area is the paradigm shifts in service provisioning and management. So actually, how do we construct these networks? How do we construct these network services over networks? And also including the influence in global standards development. And for open calls, this is, as I said, the new area for GN3+. We're really widening the scope. We're bringing in a lot more resource into this area, funding it, and we hope to see a great deal of new discoveries and new input to take us forward. So just one slide version of what GN3 Plus is. So just on the bare facts, we started April the 1st this year. It lasts for 2 years with a total budget of 84 million euros. And the EC are contributing almost exactly half of that with 42 million euros. So the rest of the money is coming directly from the NRENs, co-funding the work that they do and co-funding the research network that is provided, that is called GEON. There are around 250 participants. That's excluding the new participants from the open calls. And currently 41 project partners, including NRENs, Dante, Terena, and Norginet. And if we look at on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the premise of GN3 Plus is it is an extension and expansion of the existing current GEON networking program. But I think what I'll show you later is actually it's quite a bit more of an expansion than perhaps you realize. The GEON vision, as stated in the technical annex and the proposal, is to become the unified European communication commons. That's driving knowledge creation as the global hub for research networking excellence. And our mission is to deliver world-class services with the highest level of operational excellence. Now, we've seen this map of the GEON network. I won't go into it in any real detail, and I think maybe Mark will be presenting some more detail of what we've achieved in the last year or so. But now we have a network that is fit for the future, a 500 gigabit capable network, and it's ready for the data deluge that we really already see is beginning to hit us. So in terms of the actual project itself, we have 14 activities, 58 tasks, 250 or more people active in the project, and 41 partners. And that's serving 50 million users and 10,000 institutions across Europe. So we have an enormous reach, an enormous responsibility, actually, to make sure this is a very successful project. And not only that, we're also reaching over 100 countries worldwide, which is was a phenomenal figure. So now we're going to go a little bit more into the detail of the actual activities. So starting with the lower layer, if you like, the NAs at the bottom, they're the support functions, the NA1, management, communications and promotion, status and trends, and international and business development. And then on the left side, you see the JRAs, and I will go into these in a bit more detail. And then wrapping around that, you have the services. So you see the services are kind of following a flow from the JRAs. The research and development is done in the JRAs. It flows into the services developed, piloted, and if successful, they go into production. So now I'm going to just make sure this is an old slide version, I'm afraid. So I seem to have got, yeah, this is not the right version. Sorry, I'll go back a bit. Okay, well, I was going to show some photographs of pictures of some of the activity leaders, which are not in this version, unfortunately. But really, what I wanted to do to start with was to introduce the NAs. So the NAs are providing, NA1 specifically are providing management support for all the GN3 Plus activities. That includes open calls, and it's worth just saying a few things that what NA1 does. It has actually 10 tasks. It covers project management, finance and admin, coordination, subject matter experts, events, training. It's actually quite a comprehensive activity in its own right. And then we have internal and external communications, promotion, international liaison, and business development, which is NA2, 3, and 4. And all of these are focusing on supporting and encouraging take-up of services amongst the users by working closely with the NRENs and the worldwide partners. And just before I move on from NAs, I just wanted to introduce Trifon, who is our new head of the GEON project office. I know Trifon is around. Trifon, do you want to stand up? Is he not here? Oh, he's in the meeting. Okay. Okay. Well, I wanted to introduce Trifon, but do make sure that you introduce yourself to Trifon, because he's a very welcome addition to the project office, having come from GRNet with many years' experience. So let's go forward. So on the JRAs, we have here 3 JRAs that we're looking at. One is network architectures for Horizon 2020. The second is technology testing for specific service applications. And the third, identity and trust technologies for GEON services. And the focus here is on investigating new technologies and service trends that are expected to influence future development of network services for the RNE community. Yeah. I'd really like to do this presentation again with the right slides. Sorry about this. I can't even see the slides correctly. Here we have service activities, and you'll see here, following the overall map, that we have core backbone services. That's the old SA1 as well, which is the basic core network service. That's led by a new activity leader, Xavier Martin Rivas. I don't know if he's here. Not here. We have SA2, testbeds as a service. That's led also by a new activity leader, Jerry, and I can actually see Jerry, and I'd like him to stand up. This is Jerry Sobieski from Norginet, one of our new activity leaders. Thank you, Jerry. And SA3, network service delivery, that's led by Brian Back-Mortensen, also standing up. Thank you, Brian. And SA4, network support services, that's led by Ivana. Ivana's just at the back there. Thank you, Ivana. SA5, application services, is Anne. I hope Anne's here, yes. And support to cloud is another new activity leader in Andres Steyert. Andres is just here as well at the front, and he'll be presenting. I think Anne and Andres will be presenting later on. And then just hidden by these slides, you see service management and operations. And this is a SA6, which is the kind of a breakout from the old SA1, where you have not just the NOC support for service activities, and it's not just for the GEON backbone, it's for all service activities, but also joint procurement. So if you need something procured jointly or centrally, SA6 can provide that resource, and also software development tools and systems. So these service activities will expand and include new areas of value to provide end users secure access to the network, basically when and where they want it. So there is the overall picture again of the activities. And I expect when I do my next slide, yes, it doesn't. I really don't know how this has happened. Okay. So what I wanted to show in this slide is also that we have a very important area of service management. And this is overlain across the central part of here. So we have essentially an arrow going this way where we have product management in all the service activities. And across the end result here is these services are going to NRENs, who can then provide them to the users. What about GN3 governance? Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about GN3 governance. Niels is going to touch on that later. But you will see that there is quite a new structure in GN3 PLUS, and Niels will explain a bit in the later afternoon session. Okay. So GN3 Plus to GN3, we have 99 deliverables, 92 milestones, and if we look at the comparison between GN3 and GN3 Plus, you won't see because they're not on these slides, but I have another set of slides where you would have seen that we have more or less the same number of deliverables in the old project and the new project, slightly more deliverables in the new project. We have, if I can get this right, we have more partners. We have, sorry, I have to try and remember the slide. It's probably better if I don't try and remember the slide. We have more partners, we have less budget, we have less time, and the overall impact is that we are really quite squeezed in this project. We have to do an awful lot within the 2 years. And one of the things that we've really got to be sure about is that we're actually getting up to speed very quickly in this project. And I hope there will be some slides on showing that that has happened. So that actually is a slide trying to explain how we've got that move from GN3 to GN3 Plus, but actually at the bottom we have, in addition, 21 open call awards that have now come through, with 30 new partners on top of the 41 partners that already exist in Géant. So a very large expansion in the project. The money that is going towards the open calls, according to the EC funding program, has essentially been taken out of what we have been using in GN3 before. So we actually, in the rest of the project, have less money, but we have more activities and more tasks to fulfill. If you look at the overall split of effort, you'll see that the services, the services here are around just over 50, I think it's about 55% of the total activity. Total manpower effort is about 55% of the effort. And here you see the open calls, manpower effort, the rest of the JRAs, that's around about 23%. And here in the NAs, you also see around 22%, which is actually more or less similar to what it was in GN3 in terms of overall split. Now, if we look at how we're doing so far, now as you know, we've got new project management in place. We have much clearer plans, much more clarity on where we are in the project. And you'll see that actually using the wrong button. Actually, the figures are, these are slightly out of date because there are more in September that have now been delivered. We're around 100%, up to the end of August, we're 100% on track with our deliverables. In September, I know that we're missing about 3 deliverables, but we know that they're in final stages of drafting, so they're on track. And in the milestones, we see also that they're not too bad. If I look at the latest slide that I wanted to present, these figures are more or less around 100%. So we're actually started very well. Another way of looking at this is the overall amount of effort that is put into the project. And here you see some figures. It doesn't really matter about the detail here, but the main thing is the overall achievement against budget. That's actually quite low. We're only running at 70% of budgeted effort, which is actually a bit of a surprise. But when you look at actually what we have done, what we have achieved, our effort, like for like, at the beginning of GN3 to the beginning of GN3 Plus, is up 24%. So we've actually got started very quickly. But in fact, the budget was even more ambitious in terms of how quickly we could ramp up the effort. But if you look at the deliverables and the milestones, you say you've actually achieved that success rate without having necessarily all the effort applied. So I'm sorry about the slides. I was a bit thrown by the mix-up, but more or less all the information that you've got that I've given you today is what I would have said anyway. So thank you for that.
Please stay on stage a little bit. We have question and answers. I think Paul and Christiana are ready with microphones. So let's go for it. Any questions? Oh, come on. Oh. Yes, there's a question from John Dyer. Very good. John, you're reliable.
Sorry, my name is not John Dyer today.
Oh, it's not John Dyer. It looked like John Dyer. John Dyer was sitting behind you. It's Walter Nord, and Walter is, of course, even more reliable.
Anyway, so just to clarify a question, Matthew, it's a detail. The number of deliverables that we have in GN3 Plus, you said there were about 99. Was it 99 deliverables in GN3 as well?
Well, this was over 2 years. So actually, you have to adjust. There are 99 deliverables in total, but actually there are 2 monthly deliverables per month. So if you take 48 out of that, you get the number of deliverables that are actually not just the general monthly deliverables. If you compare that to the number of deliverables that were in GN3 and take out the monthly deliverables for that thing, then year on year they're a little bit more in GN3 Plus.
Okay, so
but
deliverables
very
per time
similar.
unit is more or less comparable.
More or less comparable, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes, Toby, please. And it is not Paul and Christiana, it's Paul and Karl carrying the microphones. I get everything wrong
the skill
today.
didn't suit me, so that's why I changed. Matthew, I was just wondering what I'd done to upset you. I was only a service activity leader, not to get a mention. So, so perhaps I should introduce myself.
I should have introduced you, sorry, Toby, and as a new activity leader as well, I wanted to make a special point of introducing the new one, so apologies for that.
It was, that's right, with a big photo of me to explain that I am the activity leader.
Actually, there was a
of SAC.
photo of you, and there was
that?
a photo of Andres as well, and Trifon.
Very good, very good. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, then I think I will use the opportunity to thank Matthew, and then we head on in the program. And if you guys in the back would like to sit down, there's some seats here in the front. If you're happy standing, then be seated or be standing. Well, anyway, we're now going to go into the session on the open calls, and I'd like to introduce to you Michael Enrico, who is the technical coordinator in GN3 Plus, and he's also the CTO of Dante. And he's going to give you an introduction on the open calls and their results, of course, and speak about the technical innovation in GN3 Plus. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So good afternoon, everybody. As you've heard, I'm the CTO at Dante, and I've been involved now in the preparation of the open calls element of GN3 Plus since the planning stages began many months ago now. Okay, so I've never ever been equated to a Jedi Knight before, but what we're hoping that this session here will provide you with some answers to some questions, and I'm going to spare you my poor impersonation of Yoda. Maybe I'll do it at the end, I don't know, but anyway. So I'm sure you have plenty of questions about open calls, and hopefully some answers I shall provide. What I want to talk about is why we did this, what we're doing, what have the outcomes been so far, and what are the next steps. So why? Okay, apart from the fact that it was required of us, because this was essentially part of the GN3 Plus call issued by the European Commission, there are many good reasons why you do open calls. Bear in mind that it's going on across many projects funded by the EC these days in the R&I programme. So first, as you can see here, it's essentially about enhancing our ability to provide world-class connectivity services to the knowledge community, to push the state-of-the-art in innovation, to raise the profile of GÉANT in the area of networking research, hopefully through the publication of peer-reviewed academic articles, to support the future services and technologies in the GÉANT network, as indeed has been going on with the GRA work up until now, and and to enable and stimulate the use of GN infrastructure by the wider community. But it does more than this. It brings in new blood. It brings in new partners. It brings in new ideas. So I, for one, having been involved in this, I'm very keen to see how this pans out. And what I've seen so far looks particularly interesting. So it has to be said that the whole process of running this open call is very new to Dante and to the GN Consortium. It's been a learning process for all of us involved. And two people I shall ask to stand up in a minute who have been particularly involved in all of that. And I just finally also want to mention that there are two other big projects funded by the EC these days, which are also doing open calls. So you will have heard of the Human Brain flagship project and the Graphene one. So in the past, the EC would have done a lot of this solicitation of the kind of work that goes on in open calls, and in essence, they're outsourcing some of this process to us. So that's the why. So what have we done? So as I've already said, this kind of thing is going on within many other projects, within many other programs, including those done by the Future Internet. The original requirement was for us to spend at least 50% of our JRA budget via this open call process. So when we determined what we were going to do, we determined we'd address three areas, essentially. So one was to, if you like, outsource some of the JRA activities from the project. The second point was to encourage the use of GN infrastructure, and this includes, for example, some of the dark fiber facilities that have been left over from the recent backbone migration. The software-defined networking sort of OpenFlow testbed, the GN OpenFlow facility, and in the future, the testbed facility being developed by SA2 and Jerry Sobieski and his people, and the bandwidth on demand service. And then we had a third objective, really, which was a kind of wild card, if you like, to bring in new ideas and to encourage a flourish in innovation. So the EC contribution to what goes on in the open calls is, as you've seen before, about 3.3 million euros. Essentially, any eligible legal entity could apply. So this includes companies, SMEs, universities, research institutes, and so on. And interestingly, unlike other open calls, we think this is one of the first times this has happened, existing partners in the GN3 PLUS project could also apply. And we're reasonably successful, by the way, in the results that I'll show later on. So the work to be carried on during the 24-month period of GN3 PLUS is essentially 18 months when they get going. As you can see here, I've already mentioned the three themes we had in mind, and essentially when we published the call, there were 18 topics across those three themes. And the kind of mini project size we wanted to achieve was something like between 100 and 350,000 euros. Okay, so this is what we published in terms of the three innovative areas. So one of them was the innovative use of GN facilities. The second one here was the outsourcing of JRA work packages, and the third one was the innovation element. And we were hoping to achieve up to 5 projects under that theme 3. So in other words, we were looking to get a good coverage across all of these areas, and we'd actually planned to introduce something like 25 to 30 new beneficiaries across these awarded projects. Okay, so the results of all of this, you can see the numbers there. So the results of all of this are as follows. So we had some 13 NRENs, 17 research institutes, 12 universities, 1 large company, and 3 SMEs among the winners, the winning awardees in the project. We had to deal with 70 proposals, and 21 came through the evaluation process. A little bit more on that in a minute. So this now enables 30 new beneficiaries. Remember, our original aim was between 25 and 30, so we have these 30 new beneficiaries in GN3 PLUS. So they're primarily universities and research institutes. As you can see, there's not so many commercial entities there. I'll come back to that point at the end. The NRENs were also successful in applying for funding through this, and these project participants represent 14 EC countries. So at the moment, following the evaluation process that went on during the summer, and by the way, to do that, we called in the services of a number of independent expert evaluators, and they in pairs, they looked at groups of these proposals, came up with consensus reports on them and marked them in very similar ways to the way that the EC does all of this evaluation. So we came up with these winners here. The paperwork is in hand to introduce all of these partners into the project at the moment, and most of that work is being done by Annabelle Grant and Natalie McKenzie, who are both here, so please stand up and make yourselves known. So Annabelle is at the back there, so thanks very much to the hard work of these two especially, then this is progressing nicely. Okay, so now I shall talk briefly about the open call projects. I don't have time to go into lots of detail about them, and indeed I don't think I could authoritatively, so I'll give you an update on these, a short update on each of them and who's behind them. So in essence, we've divided them up now for the purposes of this presentation and for the way that we sort of publicize this into these 4 areas. And I'll go through each of them now. So in the area of applications and tools, so we have four projects. So the top one here is called ARES. This is essentially from the University of Perugia. They're the lead partner in this. This is about setting up an advanced CDN, content delivery network, for the handling of genomic data sets. This one I recall actually because I was in some of the negotiation meetings, but it's interesting because this uses, for example, the NSYS, the next steps in signaling protocol developed in the IETF to establish resources on the fly within a content delivery network to help process and provide the genomic data to medics that need access to it. COVIDs. This is a cross-site evaluation of an OpenFlow-assisted video-on-demand distribution service. So this basically builds on, this is Lancaster University is the partner behind this. So this builds on work done in Nephelia in implementing an intelligent and transparent video-on-demand caching control, again using OpenFlow, but in that case they did it on single sites. This is now extending that to multiple sites. eMusic. So the partners behind this, with CESNET are the coordinating partner, but also GAR and Janet are involved, an Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, AMU, the Giuseppe Tartini Conservatory of Music in Italy, and Edinburgh Napier University. So this is about using Géant dynamic circuits to support remote collaboration in musical education and e-culture. So this is drawing on some of the work done in the Lola project as well. And then finally, NSI Contest. So NSI Contest is essentially a project about building a conformance test suite for testing implementations of NSI. So this is the network services interface developed in the Open Grid Forum. So the key players in this particular topic item are PSNC and NextWorks, based in Pisa in Italy. So on to the next of those 4 categories, basically around authentication. So most of the projects here are in essence doing work which has been outsourced from JRA3. So they are as follows. There's 6 of them, as you can see here. Briefly, we have CLASI from the University of Mercia and the University of Kent. So they are using, as you can see here, this is about ABFAB. So the ABFAB is application bridging for federated access beyond webs. This is an IETF working group, and they're looking at using protocols from this working group for scalable and ubiquitous access to cloud services and network functions. And then they want to test a sort of single sign-on approach using ABFAB over Eduroam. The next one is Géant Trustboker. This is from the Bavarian Academy of Sciences and Humanities. And so this is about enabling users to initiate first-time contact between service providers and identity providers to perform the necessarily required preparation for identity data exchange automatically. Hexa, the next one on the list, is from the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and NIFI. And so this will, one of the things that this will do is we'll look quite a lot into the legal and policy aspects of running attribute authorities. Then we have MEAL. So MEAL was one of the projects that came in through the theme 3. This is through the sort of wild card, the innovation theme. So this is SurfNet and Janet behind this. As you can see there, it's about multi-domain eduroam access across LTE networks. So the intention there is to try and have a proof of concept within the Netherlands and in the UK, and look at ways of dealing with things like the difficulties with roaming, for example, roaming data and so on. So then we have SENSE, which is Secure Enterprise Networks, finally simple and easy. Some of these acronyms are great, actually. But anyway, so SENSE. So this is PSNC and Vestina behind this one, and this is all about improving eduroam in enterprise networks, particularly addressing the point of making the EAP, this is the Extensible Authentication Protocol supplicants, which you need to make eduroam work, making those supplicants much more usable. And then finally, WAT for lower. So Web of Trust-based level of assurance enhancement. This is Nove and SurfNet behind this particular project, and this is all about introducing stronger and usable authentication solutions to RNE networks using the Web of Trust-based approach. So that's all the authentication ones. And now on to the third of these 4 topics, network architecture and optical projects. So the first of these is called Coffee. Behind this one is CNIT. This is a national consortium of telecommunications researchers and developers composed of 37 universities in Italy. And so what they were doing here, this is one of the optical projects, and then this is the one that will make use of some of the spare fiber I mentioned earlier on. So here they are wanting to use to do 1 terabit of transmission over a 200 gigahertz super channel using the technique known as time frequency packing to improve spectral efficiency. The next one is another optical project called ICOF, International Clock Comparisons over Optical Fiber. So many of you here will be familiar with the efforts to do time and frequency metrology over fiber networks, and this is what this is. So this is PTB behind this as the coordinating partner. This is the National Institute for Science and Technology in Germany with the responsibility for their metrological work within Germany. This is also the LNE, which is the French National Metrology Institute, are involved in this, and NPL, the National Physical Laboratory, which is the same kind of organisation in the UK. So they will make use of the spare fibre route between London and Paris to tie that in with existing metrology applications using dark fibre networks across NRENs. The next one, is Arena. So this is one of the architectural ones. So this is essentially, the people behind this are iMinds, and in actual fact, this is part of the Future Internet Department from the University of Ghent, along with the Waterford Institute of Technology, NextWorks in Italy, and I2CAT. And so this is all about investigating the use of RENA, or the recursive internet architecture, which is a clean slate approach to internet construction, and doing this trying this out in the context of GN3 and the NREN network architectures. Momot, Technical University of Denmark behind this. This is building a multi-domain optical modeling tool for the purpose of easing the use of alien waves across NREN infrastructures. And then finally, this one here on this page, Reaction. This is the longest name of all of the projects, more or less. Research and experimental assessment of control plane architectures for in-operation flexi-grid network reoptimization. So this is essentially flexible optical network scenario based on software-controlled superchannel transmission, another optical project. Again, the people behind this are CNIT from Italy, the University Polytechnic of Catalunya, and Telefonica IND. Finally, the software-defined networking related projects. So first of all, we have AutoFlow. This is from the University of Piraeus in Greece. This is all about autonomic network management with OpenFlow. COCO, which is essentially about, as a proof of concept to show, to look at virtual networks in multi-domain scenarios on demand using software-defined networking and network as a service for e-science communities. So this is TNO in the Netherlands and SurfNet behind this one. I don't know if I mentioned before, University of Piraeus, by the way, is behind the AutoFlow project. Dreamer is the next one. So this is about introducing and exploiting OpenFlow or SDN techniques in carrier-grade IP networks to try and provide the same level of functionalities as you would have in an IP MPLS control plane. So this is CNIT again in Italy, particularly the University of Rome. And CreateNet and GAR behind this one. DINPAC is the University of the Basque Country. So this is about exploring Géant service creation, again using OpenFlow SDN techniques, but with a path computation element involved. This is the university, as I mentioned, the University of the Basque Country here. And then finally, Minerva is about network coding. In OpenFlow networks, and this is from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, or BME, and I2CAT. And then finally on this page here, we have MOTE. So this is the University of Amsterdam and Surf Sara behind this one. And this is about the use of NML, the network markup language, and extending it for the purposes of providing OpenFlow topology descriptions in the NSI framework, again, the Network Services Interface framework. Essentially, this is adding a multi-domain element into OpenFlow using NSI. Okay, so quickly, the process, as I mentioned before, each of these participants, each of these 21 projects is now due to become a non-voting partner in the GN3 PLUS Consortium. We're hoping that the new beneficiaries will be signed off by special resolution at the GN3 PLUS Assembly later this month, and we should expect to see these projects starting by the end of October. Just a brief word about the technical coordinators. So each of these projects has a technical coordinator from within the GN3 Plus project. Here they are. So for ICOF, Coffee and Moat, the technical coordinator is Guy Roberts from Dante. I've marked the innovation topics here with red stars, by the way, so Moat is the one there. Domenico is our musical expert in Dante. He's acting as the technical coordinator for eMusic. Paul Van Dalen from SurfNet is acting as the technical coordinator for the IRENA, Momot and Reaction projects, and that's through the JRA1 work. Then we have another 4 technical coordinators here. As you can see, Aphrodite Savasti is working with those projects there. There's 7 there. In actual fact, Aphrodite is in the process of outsourcing some of that technical coordination to some people from her team. So some of the partners that are here will find out a bit that today. Coco the coordinator there is Brian Bark Mortensen from Nordunet because of its service elements. And then finally, essentially filling in, Stefan Winter and Remco Portinger are filling in for Licia while she's on maternity leave. So they look after the authentication-related projects. And then in order to ensure there's some coordination amongst the coordinators, then they will meet from time to time with myself and Guy in our roles as JRA coordinators in the project. So I hate to call this the technical coordination committee, but it's too many committees. But anyway, we will meet a little bit informally from time to time to make sure that all these are on track and they're working with each other. So dissemination, a special Connect magazine will be issued around January, February time. Each project will have its own web page on the main Géant website. A quick word about planning for GN4. So there will be more of this, that's for certain. and we're starting to plan that now for GN4, but what we would like to achieve there is more companies, more commercials applying in this. Maybe our budget numbers per project were a little bit small to attract a lot of those larger companies, but we're hoping to achieve a bit more of that in GN4. So finally, I want to publicise these flyers you would have seen around. This has got details of where you can meet all the participants. So, for example, following this plenary session, you'll see some of the applications and tools people. So please take the opportunity to meet them all. They're all here. Had I had time, I would have got them to all stand up, but there isn't right now, so you will see them hopefully during the next few days. And please just use this brochure to work out when they will be there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We actually do have a little bit of time, just a little bit of time for one question, maybe. Oh, God, you're shy. Okay, well, I will assume that you will all come to the open calls information stand and ask your questions there, and that the only reason you don't have any questions now is that you want your coffee break. So thank you very much, Michael. And before you go to the coffee break, Melanie has a question, please. Sorry. Can we have a microphone quickly? Carl, come running.
Thank you. Do I have to do anything? No. Diana has just reminded me that Michael's been talking about the open calls. I know many of the open calls guys are here today and the coordinators. So we've got a video guy and you've all been invited. So please come along in the break to the open call booth so that we can get you organised and slots set up so we can create this video to promote what you're doing and disseminate the actions. And that's something that people can look forward to. And then in January, we'll have a follow-up. And then when the projects get further on, we can do more. But this is the first step. So really, please come and see Diana here.
Very good. So open call video, coffee break, open call booth, yeah? Very good. That's the summary. Now it's my great pleasure to announce this year's icebreaker game. I know you're all shivering in your shoes already. It's not going to be really, really bad this year. And as I said before, we will not have any soldiers chasing you up and down Vienna at all. You will all find in your name badge this piece of paper. If you haven't got one, you need to see Jim, who's standing there in the corner. He'll give you one. But you should all have this piece of paper, and it's actually quite important because this is, worth drinks. So maybe that is an incentive. So we always come up with one of these ideas to ensure that you all talk to each other, and to also ensure that you talk to people that you've never talked to before, and would maybe under normal circumstances not really talk to ever, even though you all work for GN, but it's just so not enough overlap. So this year's icebreaker game is courtesy to Anne here, Anne Harding, and Walter there in the back, not John Dyer, Walter in the back. And we thank them very much to make us all play again. And this is a VIP icebreaker game, and Anne wants me to stress that it's not important, but interesting and important. Very interesting people are in the audience today, 10 of them, and you can identify them. They have a tiny little sticker on their name badge, but otherwise we also have some posters or little posters hanging outside where you find 10 clues. And according to these clues, they should give you an idea of who these people could be that you need to talk to. And you need to talk to them because you need to collect stickers yourself. Each one of these VIPs has stickers, and you are supposed to address this VIP, this very interesting person, and ask them about their role in GN. And they will tell you a little bit about their role in GN, and because you have been patiently listening, they will then give you a sticker. The aim of the game is that you collect 10 stickers, and those stickers have to be of a different color each. So it's no use going to your best friend and say, come on, give me all those pink stickers or red ones. No, you need to have 10 stickers of a different color. And now here comes the trick. If you have 3 stickers of a different color, you get a drink. and this game is on throughout today, tomorrow, and Thursday. You can change 3 stickers, different colors, into a drink in the evening during our drinks. So at 5:30 every evening we will have the the closure drinks, as you know from the symposium tradition, and you will get an extra drink. You can equally apply a lot of self-control and decide, oh, I'm going to go for 5 different colored stickers, and that'll be a special drink, but we won't reveal what it is. You make your math. It doesn't make any sense from a game theory point of view because you're losing out if you go for 5, but never mind. But please make sure to speak to these very interesting people and become a very interesting person yourself by talking to these very interesting people. And who are they? Well, to help you just a little bit, some of them are very known in the community and others are new. And I think Matthew already gave you a little bit of a hint of who is maybe new in this community. But they're definitely all well worth talking to. Well, we hope that you will be very successful in your sticker hunting. And now I really need to let you go, because it's coffee break now. Take the opportunity, mix and mingle, find your very interesting people, go to the information stands, but please make sure to be back at 10 to 4. Thank you very much.